Yes, indeed, the Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole Studio in Bobcaygeon. I'm one of your hosts, Terry. Jim is not with me in the studio this morning. Today, we're taking a dive into the Book of Daniel. Why? Because it's controversial. It's either prophecy looking forward, the mysterious view from God, or it's people looking back, rewriting things as history of events already taken place. Let's get into it.
Joshua Bowen, we're going to be doing a deep dive on the Book of Daniel, and I want to touch on 5 problems with the Book of Daniel. These are some big ones.
We'll have to move quickly.
We will try. So the first thing I think is a problem, and we hear this debated in the apologist world online with Christians, is dating the Book of Daniel. And scholars are dating the Book of Daniel, looking at it linguistically and historically, and they're finding some problems.
Yeah. At least in a particular way, when you come to the Book of Daniel, the way that it presents itself is it's written by this essentially written in the 6th century by a guy named Daniel, and he's reporting on events that he lived through, right? And this is so critical for this interpretive approach, because one of the things that you see in Daniel, particularly in the chapters 2 and 7 and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, is these visions, these dreams, whatever, that describe things that are going to happen in the, at times, very distant future for him, centuries later. And this type of predictive prophecy is incredibly important as an evidence for the authenticity of the inspiration, the divine inspiration of that text. And of course, starting way back. So when we think about critics of the Book of Daniel, it go back all the way to people like Porphyry to say this is prophecy ex eventu, right? It's prophecy after the fact. But this is really the big battleground, because evangelical fundamentalist scholars need this to be predictive prophecy, whereas again the consensus view, even among most evangelicals that I run into at least, would say this is 2nd century, but that doesn't negate its value to us as, but that's where the fight is.
And maybe I think it's really important to spend some time talking about the structure of this book too, right? Because on several levels, scholars for a long time have recognized that this is not just Daniel sitting down and recording what's going on from chapter 1 all the way through to the end of chapter 12. But what is actually taking place at a minimum is the combination of at least a couple different types of text.
Different types of texts. Well, we've been introduced so far in this scholarly analysis of Daniel into the notion that there are at least 2 sections, Daniel 1-7 and 8-12, that these sections were written in 2 different languages. One is an archaic form of Aramaic, and the other is Hebrew. And the question is, which one is older? Which draws from what sources? And was there any editor involved in combining these 2 sections, 1-7 and 8-12? And why does that matter? Well, some things are visionary. Some things look forward into the mysteries, the clouds and the fog of things yet to be revealed. Who has that clarity to pierce the fog of unknown and uncertainty? God. So the prophecies that speak forward from the dating of the Daniel's writing, which is somewhere around 605 BCE, the conservative scholars would say. Other scholars would say, I'm not sure that we have any evidence that this was written that early. How about a later date, like the same time period as the community that gathered in the Qumran caves, which is about the 200 to 300 BCE period? Why then? Well, the big revolt of the Maccabees took place at the same time. So as a nation is under siege against the Roman occupation, perhaps an editor came along and said, it's time that we revisit some of these things to know that the hand of God steers a steady course of geopolitical history. And that seems to be where consensus is being built at the current time. Now, I will separate consensus of scholars and use the word mainstream versus apologists. The apologetic, those who defend the traditional view of dating and the authorship of the book of Daniel, will tend to stay the course and defend it as a unified book written about things yet to come, whereas the scholarship tends to view it and has viewed it for some time, and that's what Dr. Josh Bowen is trying to indicate. It's been the slow, steady drip of things that have gradually moved this consensus to Daniel is written in at least two parts, two sections. One is seemingly older than the other. One seems to be full of things mysterious and wonderful in the future, whereas in fact, they may have been written after those mysterious events actually took place. So it's a historian or an editor looking back and saying, well, this is the way it unfolded. It makes a big difference because one, you preserve the mystery of only God can do this, and the other says, well, you know, people have a mission and they write what they think they are going to write. They write it for the purpose that they wish. In this case, if it's the siege of the Maccabees trying to work their political independence from the oppression of the Roman Empire, then that makes sense. Do things make sense? Do they always have to make sense? Well, you know, if you're a biblical literalist, you take it all at face value and it is what it is. If you entertain the skeptic's point of view based on linguistic analysis, based on Aramaic, based on Hebrew, Daniel wasn't written by one person. Not likely. Daniel was not somebody sitting down after the fact of his life and recording things, nor was he sitting down in one sitting writing a biography or utterances of things yet to come. It may have been that Daniel is not a real author of the book of Daniel at all. But so these are the things that we need to consider as we go into, does prophecy, if you're an evangelical conservative, yes, you need prophecy. It hangs on the God who can reveal the mysteries. Only God can do it. I'm wondering whether we see the wonderful work of politicians, scribes, Pharisees, teachers who need things to be recorded in a certain way and applied to certain circumstances to give the authentic hand and seal of God on the geopolitical events of Israel in the Middle East at the time. The time period covered is from the capture and the exile of the Jews, many of which were recorded with Daniel. Daniel, of course, we have the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego story. So all of these stories, are they historically accurate? Are they designed for a purpose to encourage, to show that God preserves and will preserve the nation state of Israel? Well, it's up for debate, I guess. It seems to be that there is enough to wonder about and not to be certain about. Certain. Well, that's the title of my book and my AI adventure as an editor, helping me to shore it all up. Adventures in AI. Adventures in certainty versus uncertainty. Or as a Buddhist writer, Thich Nhat Hanh, used to say, can you wait for the muddy waters to settle? Can you wait? Some of these prophecies have timestamps. Some of them should be happening now. I certainly have some family members who believe the second coming, the rapture. These things are coming. I'm not so sure. And I'm waiting for the muddy waters of prophecy unfulfilled, of things not happening to happen. And when that does, well, you'll convince me. Until then, there's evidence that demands a verdict, and it's not going the way people thought. Unexpected, unfulfilled expectations. Great expectations. Are you still waiting? I'm holding my breath. Bye-bye for now. relationship I have with my morning.